Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating. We're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarosinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarosinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Brayton. With Thor-on-Hulk battling it out in theaters with Thor Ragnarok this past weekend, we wanted to look at our top 5 fights.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Why did you not say with Thor thundering his way into theaters?
That would have been better.
It would have, because you're always on point with the terrible puns.
It's actually
would have been too good, maybe.
Brought up in Thor, which we all went to go see.
We
this
have all seen Thor. Thor was
collectively
the only film that made all 3 of our 5 most anticipated films list of the fall.
It's not a spoiler, but it's been brought up a few times. He is the god of thunder, and yet
Yes.
very little thunder in his things that he does.
There was some thunder.
You know, it's a plot point.
Yeah,
It's a plot point.
yeah, but thunder.
There was some.
The
Not
thunder
so much
and
thunder.
presence or
Oh,
absence
you're
Yes.
talking about the lightning thing?
lightning and thunder are associated with each
See,
other.
that's what it is. There was some noise, though. There was some bass.
Yeah,
There was.
Yeah. So what, we all went to go see this. Tim,
Yes,
you saw
indeed.
it Saturday.
I saw it Saturday.
Okay, Carrie, you and I saw this as part of kind of like a impromptu.
Saw it 7 minutes ago.
Trying to squeeze it in before the episode.
We literally pirated it and are watching it right now on the air.
Just finishing it up on the side. So what did you see anything this week, Tim, other than Thor?
I saw quite a bit. One thing I did see, another film that was on my most anticipated list, I saw The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh, I've been so excited to hear about this
I
one.
thought it was pretty great.
Really?
I liked it a lot. Maybe not quite as much as The Lobster, which I know is both of your favorite movies. So let me put it this way. We've had sort of an agreement, not one we ever quite put out into words in the universe, but we all see each other's films. Like everyone had their top 5 most anticipated. We all try to see the films on everybody's lists, which this year was a total of 12. This fall was a total of 12 films. So I am going to officially say you guys should not see The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Really? It's that bad?
Oh, okay.
It's that great, but I think you would not like it at all.
So
it would be potentially your least favorite film of the
Were
year.
you wrong and there really is a death of a deer?
There is no death of a deer.
Is there a death?
There is.
Is there...
Spoiler alert.
Oh.
That there is a death comes as little surprise.
Yeah.
The nature of the death is the pivot on which the film's plot hinges.
So you're willing to just...
I'm willing to take
towel
the hit to my average. I think that you guys would just not like it
and
at
just
all.
give it the lowest possible rating for both.
Give it a 0 star.
And
Bring down my average that far.
That just tempts me to want to go see it more, only because your certainty of knowing our viewing habits, then and actually seeing, like, do you actually know me?
So you're saying you want to give it a 5-star review just to prove me wrong?
No, I don't want to do that. I want to say, like, does Tim know me? Like, that's what I want to go out and see now.
I feel confident in saying that I know you well enough to know your response to this particular film.
So the only...
More Carrie than Rob.
Okay.
I think neither one of you
Sure.
would like it. I think Rob would stop at not liking it. Honestly, God, Carrie, I think would be your least favorite film of the year.
But do you... So there's a difference for me in not liking a movie. Would I be saddened by this movie, like grieving from this movie? Or like in what way would I dislike it? Because that matters.
It has upsetting content, but I also think the way it presents that content is sufficiently abstract and artsy that it wouldn't make you sad. I think you would just be very frustrated and pissed off by the whole
Like
thing.
Serbian film kind of disturbing?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely not. It's much more sort of standard kind of disturbing. But it's not happy. It's definitely a sad movie. I cannot think of what the in would be. So here's the thing. My wonderful, beloved 4-star praise of this movie basically is what the film is doing stylistically is so weird and like hard to watch that it made me anxious, and it made me so anxious that I felt physically ill from anxiety. And that to me is like a praise. It's like this movie worked on me real well. And if I were to say to you, either of you, this movie made me so anxious that I thought I was going to puke, does that sound like a praiseworthy movie that you want to run out and see?
I mean, especially because I felt that way seeing like Aladdin. So I'm assuming
It's not a pukable film the way that Aladdin is.
No, okay. I don't. So now I'm nervous. So all right, so let's play this out. If I don't see it, does that help you or hurt?
It harms me because I would give you 0 stars towards my average. So it would bring my average down.
Typically, it goes to
right.
the person's rate who's actually rated. It kind of goes across the board. So Tim would have 4s across the board, but he's throwing us this.
Well, no,
wrong.
I mean we've never had this scenario happen.
Okay.
We were very good over the summer about seeing everybody's films.
I should have done this for you for The Mountain Between Us, but here we are. So
you will like Killing of a Sacred Deer less than I liked Mountain Between Us.
Okay. All right,
Possibly
well, we'll
more
see.
than
Maybe
you like
Rob.
the
I'm gonna have. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have Rob see it, and then I'll have him validate your opinion, and then I won't see it.
Why do I have to put myself through this?
Yeah, I mean you're more durable than I am.
It's true. I don't want to be
so.
scarred. I'm going to be scarred. I know I'm going to be scarred. All right. Well, I'll go see it.
Did you see anything else other than Thor?
No, I saw with Amy Poehler, Will Ferrell.
Sex tape.
Gambling. That would have been much more interesting to watch. No, the gambling movie. I think it's called The House.
The House. That's right. The movie that was delayed.
Yeah.
Like 2 years.
Yeah, they have a daughter going to college. They somehow misappropriate the money and start a gambling operation at their friend's house, and comedy ensues, but it doesn't.
Why did you watch this?
It doesn't.
Why?
Airplane movie. And
okay.
I'm on airplanes a lot.
Bring a Sudoku book, man.
I have to, because I see things and then I'm like, I'd like to see that with Carrie. So then I'm like, I try to identify movies either I haven't seen and or that Carrie might not be interested in, which is a very small subset. So I was left with The House or whatever. I think that's what
it's called. The House.
Okay, good. So memory serves. But no, it was really just Thor Ragnarok, which I'm excited to talk about.
Okay, cool. So shall we get into it?
Let's do it. So 2 hours, 10 minutes, 8.2 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes giving it lots of love with 93%. Directed by Taika Waititi. We were going to look up the name.
We were going to look up his name so we don't keep butchering the man's name.
No, it's Taika.
Is it Taika?
Taika, yeah.
Taika
Waititi.
Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in Shadows. Stars the regular cast of characters plus some new faces. We had Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Cate Blanchett coming in as the goddess of death.
Hela.
Hela? Yeah, Hela, yeah.
I knew someone had to make the joke.
Well,
I thought it was going to be Rob, and it was you this time.
He was too busy like stumbling over whatever the hell he was trying to say.
It's like,
so
YTT.
Had Mark Ruffalo, who actually did show up. A little bit more than I had expected. Jeff Goldblum, bringing his
delightful
Goldblumness to it, and then surprising to me at least, Tessa Thompson as one of the Valkyries.
So
yeah, I found her to be very good. A little plot. Who wants to do plot?
Well, I just want to say this movie is cleaning up at the box office. Estimated 120 something, like 121 million weekend, so doing real well.
Yeah, 120 weekend brought in 427 worldwide. So made for 180 million. So doing a good job bringing the MCU. Another maybe will it make $1 billion worldwide? Too early to say.
Yeah,
I think there's enough viralness about it, though. People, it's catching on, and then people are like, "Oh, I got to see it."
I think Despicable Me 3 has been the only $1 billion movie this year.
How is this possible?
I don't know.
Okay.
But it totally did, and it's just been the exchange rates need to go really well for films to break $1 billion, and they're not. So I think it's going to be somewhere between 9 and 950.
I think the next
$1 billion movie is going to be Star Wars.
I'll say higher. Rob, do you want to go over under? You want to go lower than 950?
I'm going to go lower than $1 bill.
Okay.
I'm going to go lower than $1 bill.
You have to go no. This is higher. This price is right, man. You have to go lower than 950 or higher.
Oh, lower than 950.
So you want $950 million and $1.
That's right. That's right.
I'll stick with because I don't want to give anything away, but I'll stick with the kind of IMDb. The mighty Thor finds himself in a lethal gladiator contest against Hulk. His former ally, Thormus. Yeah, this doesn't do a good job. That's not really the plot.
That's how they advertise the movie.
Tim, you do the plot. You do the plot.
So the plot of the movie is that following the events of Thor: The Dark World from 2012, I think it was the very first. No, 13. I don't know. It was
been a long time.
It was either the immediate first post-Avengers film or it was the first one after Iron Man 3. So that came out, and the end result of that film, spoiler alert for Thor: The Dark World, which is a shit movie, so you shouldn't feel bad about having it spoiled, is that Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, has usurped the seat of Odin, the god of or king of the gods, played by Anthony Hopkins, unbeknownst by anybody. Meanwhile, in Avengers: Age of Ultron from 2014 or 15 or one of them. These movies they pile up. I think it was 2015 was Age of Ultron. Thor has gone on a quest to find Infinity Stones. In the process, discovering that something terribly awry is going on back on his home planet of Asgard. So he returns, finds out that what that awry thing is that Hela, the god of death, is soon to return from where she has been banished for millennia upon millennia. And if she can arrive in Asgard, it will represent basically the destruction of all things, which is Ragnarok. So Thor has to stop her, but she's too wily and too easily, she bests him quite effortlessly. And he ends up in exile of sorts on this trash planet where he is in fact press-ganged into becoming a gladiator, does in fact fight Hulk, although it's a relatively minor thing in the plot. And that takes us far enough along that I think any further than that would be a spoiler. But yeah, let us just say that this is not the first Marvel Cinematic Universe tragedy, so you can rest assured that Thor does in fact get back to Asgard.
Have you ever considered writing those little IMDb plot summaries?
Oh, anyone can. Those are fan written.
You're really good at it.
Thank you.
I think
Yours
you
would
should.
be thumbs up to the top of the pile,
Yeah.
and then I wouldn't have to read this trash that I.
Yeah, that was really
That
good.
was clearly based. What you were reading, Rob, was clearly based on the trailer.
Well, Kara, what did you think?
So I'm a little anxious. I'm a little nervous to see what you guys are going to think. So I'll go first, and if I'm just way off base, you can tell me. Right. It was so good.
You're way off base.
Oh.
No, it's fine. It's a good movie.
What do you mean fine? Don't say fine.
It's fine.
It was so good.
It's fine.
But did you think so good?
I think it was fine.
Just more fine.
It was fine.
Okay, so it was good, but like a little bit more than good.
I'm with you.
Were you too?
Oh, I thought it was very good.
So it's super.
And I'm trying not to think about it too much because I think if I think about it too much,
Don't think about it too. Don't
I'll point
overthink.
out flaws.
That's my
Yeah.
all the best movies are the ones that you have to be very careful not to think about them too
No,
closely.
don't think
You're
about this too
puncturing a
much.
hole.
Just enjoy it. It had the comedy that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was trying for that did not hit. Like that humor of, that stop-go humor of, there's a really tragic situation happening and it's like, a little funny plug or a little funny joke, which I think they tried to do and it just didn't work.
Sure.
Yep.
This worked really, really well. The whole theater was laughing when we were in there, including us. Both of us were cracking up. It kind of blended in like an 80s vibe that I wasn't expecting. I don't know if you guys noticed that too.
Oh,
absolutely.
I was expecting it
From the campaign
you were?
alone. I was hoping. We were
the
hoping.
campaign sold me on. That's why I was so excited. It was like the 80s cartoon version of He-Man as a Thor movie.
Totally.
That's basically what they were selling.
Yeah, and I didn't catch that, but it was so well done. I thought it was so good. It was fast paced. It was a long movie, but it didn't feel long to either of us. It sailed through, and yeah, overall, I think I just really enjoyed it. It was fun.
So your one vote for, so if the MCU films this year were Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and now Thor Ragnarok. So I take it, Carrie, that this was your favorite?
Wait, say him again.
Guardians 2,
oh, yeah.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, for sure, hands down.
Yeah,
What about you, Rob?
I've got this at the top of the MCU universe.
I liked Guardians better.
Okay.
I like Guardians 2
Really?
better. Yeah, I think the humor in Thor is better. Mm-hmm. There is far less of it than I feel like I was promised.
See,
I feel I was promised a Taika Waititi comedy in Thor drag.
That's
and
so interesting.
I got a movie where every now and then Waititi got to sneak a Waititi scene into a very boilerplate Marvel film.
So it's interesting that you say that. I actually I come from the other side where I was like, I almost thought it aired on too much of Taika Waititi's comedy, where it was almost distracting to a point where there were some scenes where I was like, maybe not the right time for the comedy.
Yeah.
Always the right time for the comedy.
Not always.
I don't know.
Sometimes it pulls you out of the drama. You don't want to be pulled out of the drama.
Was not engaging to me in the first place. So part of what I think is going on, I find Thor the character to be very drab, and I find Chris Hemsworth to be like an active liability in the role. Less so in this film than he has ever been.
He was.
What do you mean active? He's like no one else. Who else could play Thor? It has to be
someone
him.
who can recite lines of dialogue that don't feel like he's reciting.
Oh my gosh!
I don't like.
I love him. I know you don't, but he was so good, and he was particularly good. That's his funny, and everyone was laughing.
He's better at comedy than not comedy.
Yes.
For sure.
Do you think because of the Australia-New Zealand tie, like maybe that's like there's some sort of comic sensibilities that come from that part of the world where?
I mean, I think there's a very pronounced
where he can
Kiwi-esque sense of humor going on.
Where he can tap
very much,
because he can maybe tap into that a little easier maybe than some of the other things that I've written. But yeah, I know you're a big fan of Jermaine Clement, like that sort of thing, like Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah,
you like that type
I
of
just
humor.
love it.
So
just love it.
I thought it, like, if I'm pointing out some flaws, like for me, it tried to be too funny too often.
I
thought it was just the right amount.
I'm hard on the other side. I wish it was more funny. For me, when the third act or fourth act, I guess, action sequence kicks in and it stops being funny for the most part, the movie just shriveled up and died. Like everything about that.
But you gotta let the action flow. Like, how do you get into the action if you're just making jokes?
Action. It was dull action.
Oh, it was good. Action. Oh man, everyone's gotta see this.
I loved the opening parts before the plot really kicked in, like the scene where Thor returns to Asgard. And
it's Asgard. By you saying Asgard because of the joke.
The point being, when he returns to his home planet and encounters like the weird cult of personality Loki has developed for himself, including that play.
Yes,
that was
which
really
has
funny.
A cameo by an actor who I will not name, but an actor who has previously worked with Waititi.
So funny.
And seeing that actor playing Anthony Hopkins was one of the best things I've seen in a movie in 2017.
Oh, I didn't pick that part out.
Oh, it was awesome.
Who it was?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
catch
how
that
do you
part.
not know?
I will tell you.
The guy laying on the ground.
The guy who plays Odin.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about it on the break.
All right, we'll talk about it on the break.
Yeah.
I missed that one. I caught the other Taika Waititi,
so
Jeff Goldblum's underling.
Yes.
So that was obvious.
So good.
I forget what her name is, but she was in Wilder People.
Her name's Rachel House. She plays Topaz, right?
Topaz?
Her name's Rachel House.
Is it?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right.
Maybe.
It is.
It could be.
It is.
Okay.
And she's also in there. So here's another little fact I'm going to rain on you guys. And who do you think plays Korg?
I know this.
Don't tell that.
Was that the Stone guy?
That was the Stone
Man.
Man.
See, I was hoping it was Jermaine Clement, but it wasn't.
No.
It was the other Flight of the Conchords guy?
No.
It's Taiki.
It's Waititi himself.
Oh, my goodness.
You see, like, to me, that is he's my favorite character. Every part he was in the movie, I was like, this is the movie I want to be watching.
I love Stone Man. Korg was awesome.
I want to see Korg Ragnarok and not Ragnarok.
Can we give a little bit of love to MCU for all the heat, for example, that the Star Wars universe has taken for not allowing creative freedom? He got, I mean, you think not enough, but at least his personality was present in the film.
Sure.
Very present. I mean, it was very much.
I would absolutely, without a moment's hesitation, and the Kenneth Branagh fans in the house might be very pissed off at me. I think Waititi's the best filmmaker who has yet made a Marvel film by a lot.
Yeah,
and like it is a Waititi film. It's just not as much of one as What We Do in the Shadows or Hunt for the Wilder People, and that's what I was looking for. Yeah. Honestly,
I'm glad they gave him enough leash to be able to do as much as he did.
Yeah.
So, no, 4-star movie for me. Where are you at, Care?
I have to think about it. You know what upset a little bit? Guess who's also in this movie? And I don't know if you know this either. Idris Elba's in this movie.
He, of course, is in this movie. He's in all the Thors. But this is the one where he finally gets, like, a plot point.
Who knew? I bet there's a large percentage of people that don't know that that's Idris Elba.
That's Idris Elba.
He does not look like Idris Elba.
He looks like Idris Elba
wearing
yellow
yellow contacts. Oh, gosh, he's so good.
Otherwise, it looks like Idris Elba.
But he has the long hair.
He does, in fact, also have long hair.
It's very good costume and makeup. It might win for something this year for that.
Marvel films have... Sure. No, they don't win.
They don't win?
They don't win.
I'd love to pick this apart more. We might have to save it for a spoiler episode at some point because there are definite nitpicks that I would have, and we'll have to do that at some point.
And I will say, I know I just was kind of bagging on the film. I'm actually at 3.5 with it.
Okay.
Like, the Marvel films for me fall into a very narrow channel of 3 to 3.5. It's hard to imagine any one of them ever again in the future not being one of those two ratings for me. And this is a better than average one. Like, it's clearly of this year so much better than Spider-Man.
So much.
I liked Guardians better. If nothing else, the like dance opening credit scene in Guardians I liked better than anything in Thor. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave with saying that minus the entry into Asgard, that particular scene, everything else on Asgard, the third act, wasn't as exciting for me as getting back to Asgard.
It wasn't. And, one last thing, and then I'm done talking about it. But you've got Cate Blanchett giving like such an overripe, wonderful performance, and they turn her into just another Marvel villain.
Yeah, very one-dimensional.
Marvel has a villain problem. They just have a huge villain problem.
Yeah. Anything? Did you have, or were you just doing Sacred Deer? That's it? All right. Remember, you're going to be able to find reviews on both of those on the site soon, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, you can find more details about all the movies we've talked about on our website. That's alternateending.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. You may want to make us watch a movie, have Tim write a review, pick your own episode topic. You can do it all from our Patreon page. We also actually... randomly got a PayPal donation as well from
thank you, person who's still living in 2006.
Yeah,
I say with love because I'm still using PayPal.
David Aiello, appreciate that. I don't even know how you found us, tracked us down on PayPal, but appreciate the donation. Also, I want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com, click on the Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, here were the things that were purchased.
Okay.
We had a plastic storage tube, a yellow documents another blueprint.
Another blueprint.
But this is a little different expandable carrying case. So
it's a carrying case for the plastic tubes.
Plastic storage tube, yellow document blueprints. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So does it carry
A tube for a tube.
When you have a sufficient number of tubes, they become unwieldy. So you have to put them in a case.
That makes sense to me.
A tube holder.
Also an outdoors person, Outdoorsman Lab ultralight sleeping pad. So when we set up our tent, I didn't realize that beneath your sleeping bags, you probably need you need like a pad. Otherwise,
it
it's not very
depends on
comfortable.
where you're camping. If you're like camping on a sand dune, you can probably.
Have you ever slept in a tent even?
Yes,
When?
in our backyard.
Oh, well, that's not, you don't need a pad there. It's
need
not
it.
like you ever even mow the lawn.
I like some comfort.
You got plenty of pad there.
If you're going to be out in like a campground, like when my family used to camp in the Badlands, you didn't put up a pad, you're going to have rocks in your back. It's going to suck.
We also had a men's fleece hoodie, soft zipper, active Swisswell, black. Got to get the hoodies. It's getting colder outside. Got to warm up. Also, for the season on Amazon Instant Video, someone picked up Halloween.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Does it give a year?
It does not.
Jamie Lee Curtis,
we
probably.
will not know if it was the
original.
Jamie Lee Curtis or the remake.
I think it's the original.
I hope it's they're both. The remake gets too much shit, but I hope it's the original.
Is it H2O?
It is not H2O.
Just the regular,
It just
no
says
water.
Halloween.
Okay.
Also on DVD or Blu-ray, we also had Frankenstein, the Complete Legacy Collection purchase.
Nice. I need to pick that up.
Bela Lugosi Collection. Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Yep.
Black Cat, The Raven, Invisible Ray, and Black Friday.
Nice.
But no Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn Gorilla.
Does not state that, no.
No good. That needs to be on Blu-ray.
Blu-ray Castle in the Sky. Good purchase there.
Nice, more studio.
And I'm going to mess this one up. Nausicaa of the Valley of the
Winds.
That's the one on Blu-ray. Also the Marx Brothers Silver Screen Collection. Thanks, guys, for all your purchases. When we get back, our top 5 fights. And welcome back to Alternating. We're talking about our top 5 fights. Care, what makes a top 5 fight to you?
Well, that's a good question. So I took fights, not battles. So to me, a battle is like many people included. So for my particular criteria, it had to be either one-on-one or one-on-many to be a fight. Because, you couldn't put like wars in
Much
here.
like in your sex life.
Wait, one-on-one
What's that?
or
Sorry?
one-on-many?
Same criteria.
One-on-one. Yeah, actually, now that that's right. Yeah, actually. So, yeah, then I went from there. Then when you asked me the question of did I pick movies that I really like and how did I order them, which you're probably going to ask me, I really don't like fighting in general, like fighting movies. So, but I really don't like boxing. Just in general, in life. I don't actually like boxing. Or like Jake the Snake, like WWF. Like I'm not into that kind of fighting. I'm better with Kung Fu.
Sure. So did you go for like physical fighting or did you do verbal fighting? I was curious if you were
I went with emotional battles.
Okay.
So no.
Did you go with Indiana Jones fighting with his father to find the Holy Grail?
Oh, I should have. Actually that's
not too late to lie
spoiler.
about your order.
I know. So I went with, if I liked the movie, it kicked you up in the ranks, but then I went with quality fighting scenes, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. What did you do?
I definitely privileged the scene itself over the movie. I think all 5 of my movies are good movies, but they are not necessarily all beloved in their totality, but they all do have good fight scenes. I was a little bit more strict. To me, it had to be one-on-one, and I had to disqualify some scenes that right up until the final moment I really, really love, notably the staircase fight in The Protector and the hallway fight in Old Boy, just because I felt, you know what, to honor the spirit of the thing, it has to be one person fighting one other person. My other criterion, they cannot start the fight armed. If they acquire arms during the fight, that's fair. If they like grab a nearby sword and it turns into a sword fight, cool. If they walk into that fight with a sword, no. Then it becomes a sword fight.
Why is that not a fight?
Because it's a sword fight scene.
Sometimes you could have tools.
Ultimately, it was a no gunfights rule.
Okay.
But I couldn't come up with a good definition that didn't also outlaw things like swords and clubs. Now, again, if you acquire one in the middle of the scene, sure. Not a gun. Okay. No guns. Not a single gun.
So you couldn't walk in knowing there was a fight brewing. You just had to...
You had to use your body and your wits at first unless you looked out and were able to find...
Quick, a nunchuck right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, got it.
Interestingly enough, we line up on criteria pretty well. I also
Tim?
went mano a mano. Yeah, Tim and I line up. I just... As I looked at different fight scenes, it's just too big of a universe if you go beyond that. So I thought, and it's probably called something different. More like a brawl.
One on many is still limited.
Brawl's a good word.
Yeah.
Brawl's a good word.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great ones where it's 1-on-2 or 1-on-10, like some of the hallway scenes. Even Atomic Blonde, if we go back to recent memory, her taking out like an entire staircase full of individuals. So I went mano a mano. The weapon thing is interesting. I was looking at my list now. I would have been okay with all but one, had it not.
I don't get why there's no weapons. Like that's what's required.
It's an interesting way to narrow down.
These are top 5 hand-to-hand combat movies, you know.
This was the rule I gave myself, and as I look at it, my number 5 could be argued. I don't think it would be, but I think it could be argued that a weapon enters the fight at the start.
And how this is something that as I look at my list too, I was looking at fights where there's. The two individuals, because mine are mano, somewhat equally matched. You know, it's not going to be...
I think that's inherent. I think if they're not equally matched, it's probably not a good fight because you're just watching some person get pulverized by somebody else. And it could be good drama, but it's not likely to be good fight choreography at that point.
And in general, all of my fights happen at... Like, my best fight scenes happen at the end. Like, this is it's building towards this particular fight scene. So you're waiting for it to happen.
Man. Those are really strict criteria, people.
The last one, not for you guys? Like, do most of these fight scenes happen not at the end?
No, that does not seem... I mean, more than not. Let me put it that way, but it's not a rule.
Mine are at the beginning.
2 are very definitely not climaxes.
I am anticipating no overlap.
Oh, I think there's a lot of overlap.
Okay. I'm excited to hear about it.
My first one I thought Tim was going to have because I hate this movie so much. But then now you said something that I don't think you will. Should I go with my first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please do.
So my first movie is the worst, but it has an amazing, amazing fight scenario and fight scene. It's the 2003 Kill Bill Volume 1.
That is a great movie.
Oh, I know you would love it.
An excellent motion picture.
It's just the worst.
It is the second best Kill Bill, but that is the worst thing I can say about that movie.
Yeah. So, fight scene, right?
I mean, there are multiple fight scenes.
Many.
Which one do you have in mind?
So, the one I'm thinking of. So, I saw this movie. I don't even know what genre this is. It's like...
It's a genre pastiche.
What does that mean?
It means it has blaxploitation, it has kung fu, it has stuff going on. But I'd say... depending on which fight, I mean, different fights are different genres.
Okay, so I'm thinking
kind
about...
of the plot of the movie.
I'm thinking about... when Uma Thurman is up against like those 100 people with samurai swords.
Crazy 88.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess.
To me, that is a martial arts sword fight scene. I would call that martial arts.
One on many, but she's one on many. So Uma Thurman comes in. Let me tell you a little bit about this movie if you haven't seen it. It's written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. I don't think I like any of his movies if I think about it.
Boo.
Probably.
Boo.
Said a lot of people turn off their podcasts.
Sorry. Can you think of one that I would like, Rob?
Have you seen Jackie Brown?
No.
She would. I don't think she'd
like Jackie Brown.
She'd like Jackie Brown.
No. Can you give me any other ones? Does he do anything that's not martial arts?
Oh, he does mostly things that are not martial arts.
Oh, he does. Okay. I think I'm only thinking of him as
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
From
there was
Dusk
like
Till
the drug
Dawn?
thing.
It's not really a Tarantino
I know it's not, but like
movie.
it's half Tarantino, right?
I
The
don't
first half?
know.
No, it's no. I mean, he co-wrote it, but he directed none of it.
Oh, Rodriguez and who else? Sorry, we're
Just
off
Rodriguez.
topic.
It's okay.
just Rodriguez.
It's okay.
All right.
So anyway, so Kill
I'll
Bill.
keep looking for
Tell
one.
us more about Kill Bill.
So the
Volume 1,
lead
Carrie.
character, who's called the Bride, is played by Uma Thurman. She's a member of this assassin squad, and she has this guy named Bill, who she's dating or is in love with, or I don't know.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
hard
There's
to
this
say.
Bill. So Bill's played by
Bill's the
David
gang boss.
Carradine, who's the guy from that show. What's the TV show I used to watch with David Carradine?
Kung Fu?
Kung Fu. I used to watch
And
that all the time.
This is why he was cast in Kill Bill.
I see. That makes sense. I used to watch it with my dad all the time. So anyway, she decides she doesn't want to be an assassin anymore. So she goes off and she's like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. But then she ends up finding out that there's a weird scenario that happens. She's in a coma. When she wakes up, something bad's happened and she wants revenge. So she comes back. Obviously, she has like mad skills as an assassin. She comes in, and then the scene that I'm referring to is, she's in this, I don't know if it's like a sushi restaurant or something. I don't know where she's at. But she's in a place, and then 100 people come in with ninja swords. She takes all of them down. Then she like rips a guy's eyeball out. Then like 100 more people come in. She takes them all down. Then she's taking people at the ankles, the arms. There's like blood splattering everywhere. And then she goes and she starts like fighting. And there's a scene where she goes into the dark, and she starts fighting in the dark. And then it culminates with her like there's one person left, and it's like a 12-year-old, and she like spanks him with her knife.
He's older than 12, but he's very clear.
Older than 12, less than 27,
Yes.
and she won't off his
'cause
face.
he's so clearly out of his element. He's so clearly like
he doesn't want to be there.
idiot.
So this was I hated this movie so much, but when I was thinking about this list, I was like, it's a movie that when I saw it 15 years ago, I have never forgotten.
Carrie would like the one episode of ER that he directed.
Could be.
You guys have been looking this whole time. You guys aren't listening at all.
I was
am
listening.
very, very much in love with that fight scene. It would have been another one of the ones that the DQ was in part, like my disqualification list was kind of designed.
She had a sword
She had a sword
going in,
and
which
there's multiple
she was like sizing up the whole room with the reflection
No, it's
on
just
the
great.
sword.
Yeah, it's all great. Yeah, I love it too. It's
Yeah.
just I was really trying to stick to one-on-one fights. It's a great
All right,
character.
all right.
I didn't know that you had seen that movie.
Oh,
so
I've seen it.
I'm
I
excited.
was traumatized. So, what does that make your number 5
So
then?
my number 5 is going a very altogether different direction. So I will say this for my list, some of these are not. If I'm just like objectively talking, what is the best fighting? No, there's some historical context. There's narrative context. All of which is a way of saying that by today's standards, my number 5 is kind of maybe a little bit pokey in the choreography, but it is the train fight scene from 1963's James Bond film From Russia with Love. In which James Bond and what's the name of the Red killer, the character played by
Come on, Rob, pull it out.
Robert Shaw's character.
yeah, he's played by Robert Shaw. He's Red Quint. No, Quint's his character.
Rob, you're 50%
anyway,
there.
Anyway, that guy. So they're on a train, and the spy, the bad spy, he's from Spectre, the evil spy organization, has somewhat managed to convince James Bond that he is another British agent. They go into the train together, and somewhere along the line, Bond suddenly realizes that this man is an assassin who's trying to kill him. Red Grant. I guess his name, Red Grant. And so what ensues is a fight scene in a very tiny train compartment where the camera and both actors, and more to the point, both actors stuntmen, are just like flailing around, beating the tar out of each other in this really cramped little space. And it's honestly my favorite fight scene in a James Bond movie, even with like 50 plus years of development and fight choreography, because of that contained, like the smallness of it. Like it's so little, there's such an uncomfortably tight space that it makes all of the punches just feel so much harder and like harder to execute, harder hitting. A wonderful little claustrophobic fight scene, beautifully edited. Like this is literally a scene I use to teach editing to children, not to children, to 19 and 20 and 21-year-olds. But just so perfectly edited. The editing itself helps define the space, helps to make the punches feel more like they were really doing consequential things. Because this was, early on that stuntmen were not necessarily as convincing as they are now. So it takes some extra work to make the punches really feel violent. But I just love it. And it was referenced in its, special way in Spectre, the most recent James Bond film, in the scene with David Bautista's character fighting Daniel Craig's James Bond on a train. But yeah, I think it's just this perfect management of space to make a fight seem far more desperate than anything else about it necessarily would be.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen this, Rob?
No, I have not.
You have not seen From Russia with Love?
No.
You got to see that.
It's pre-1980s. I have trouble with
But it's a Bond.
I know it's a Bond.
It's a
I
Bond
gotta
film
catch
from
up with my Bonds.
pre-1980s.
We've got to do our top 5 Bonds. I know. I'm sorry. Disappointing. A movie that I have seen that's post 1980s, but just it kind of falls in that nostalgia factor for me.
It's on my list.
That qualifies. No, I don't think so. This one got me into martial arts, and particularly the martial artist Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
It's got to be. You got to have a little JCVD on here.
No, in fact, I don't gotta have any such thing.
I'm talking about 1989's
JCVD.
Kickboxer.
No.
So?
Not even one of the decent JCVD films.
But
Kickboxer's
the,
fine.
but the fight scene between
Is this
him
where he
and Tong
wears a
Po.
leotard?
There is a. No, wait. Is there a leotard scene?
Well, there is not only
No,
one,
there is a leotard
There's
scene,
not
yes.
only one JCVD film with a leotard, though.
Yeah, that's
I would
true.
imagine
more
there's
than
many.
one.
Yeah.
He is in a leotard when he goes into the bar after he's kind of learned a little bit of his training and has to kind of try it
tell
out.
us more.
But this is the one between him and Tong Po. So Tong Po has put JCVD's, who plays Kurt Sloan, has put his brother in a wheelchair. His brother was the kind of the martial artist, and he was in Thailand fighting Tong Po, this much heralded, infamous kickboxer who just destroys his opponents. Puts him in a wheelchair, and JCVD.
Why do we keep calling him JCVD?
It's just easier than
Let's call him
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
let's just call him
Also,
leotard.
his best movie is called
It is the
JCVD.
best.
Is it really?
And
Yes,
everyone
it's
should
fantastic.
see it.
Yes.
It's a wonderful,
Is it a documentary?
it's like a self-referential comedy, but it's not funny. It's really weird. It's like him playing himself in this really tragicomic story about his own life. But that's not what we're talking
Okay.
about.
No, this one builds up, and again, there's training montages. You get all the typical martial arts things, all culminating with a final showdown between him and Tong Po, who, up till him learning all of his training, he was an inferior martial artist. So, will JCVD overcome Tong Po? Played by, not an Asian actor, which was, that's probably
weird.
the most off-putting part. Is he's got some makeup on to make him look Thai.
That's weird.
Which is unfortunate.
Oh my.
But still a great movie. Over 10 minutes of fight scenes, and you're not sure which way it's going to go.
So strange. I don't think I saw this on any other person's recommendations.
I stand alone in this. There's a scene where there's no arms, but at one point they do dip their bandaged hands into like sap and then into glass. So they get glass particles on their hands to accentuate the fighting.
Classic.
And then Tong Po also throws some sand in his eyes to make him blind, and he has to use his other senses to fight. It's great. I enjoy the martial arts.
Yeah.
And with any other Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, it ends with one of those giant, full stretched out kicks where
Don't
he
tell us.
has
We
his
might all
legs
see it. Don't
do
tell
a
us.
roundhouse, but with all of his legs stretched out in the air that only JCVD can do.
That only the leotard can hold in.
He is the solitary living human being capable of such feats.
Only person I've seen who can do it.
Well, thanks for that recommendation, Rob.
Best fight, one of the best fight scenes.
For what
sounds
it's
good.
worth, I do know another person who would potentially have gone so far as to make the entire list Jean-Claude Van Damme films. So you are not alone.
There you go. All right, Kara, what do you have at number 4?
Number 4, this one might be on Rob's. It definitely won't be on Tim's, I don't think.
Don't sell yourself short.
It's directed and written by Peter and Bobby Farrelly.
Heck no.
Not on your list?
Nope.
Do you know who they are?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what they did with the best fight scene ever?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. So, Dumb and Dumber?
Which fight
The restaurant scene?
Oh, there's this.
Oh, man. It's so good. So, if you haven't seen this,
meets our criteria.
I
guess.
have.
For
and
sure.
I'm drawing a blank.
oh, I'll tell you all about it. So, Harry and Lloyd are two good friends, and they happen to be a little bit on the dumber side. And
But one of them is dumber.
right, but you don't really know. That's part of the plot. You got to figure out which
It's a
one.
mystery.
It is a mystery. I think it's Lloyd is the dumber one. But anyway,
Which one is which?
I don't actually know at this point.
Is Lloyd Jim Carrey? I think Lloyd is Jim Carrey.
I think Lloyd. Oh, I actually was going to say it was Jeff Daniels. Lloyd and
this is not a
it's
productive
not.
use of our time.
It's not productive. But let me just tell you. So they end up on this comedy of errors trip. They're trying to return a briefcase of money to a beautiful woman that they're both in love with, and it becomes one of those silly, terrible movies. It's not a great movie. But what is great is this restaurant fight scene. So Harry is having dinner with Mary. Oh, so Harry is. is Jim Carrey.
Okay.
So Harry's having dinner with Mary, or you think that he's having dinner with Mary, and he begins to imagine that the waiter comes over and they're sitting there and they're having this delightful fancy dinner. He comes over and like starts sucking on her arm, the waiter, and Jim Carrey's character flips out and comes over and starts attacking the waiter. So he comes and like fights him off, and then there's this like amazing like you know when you box and you do the thing where you go like do 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 like that thing. Sure. He does it with the guy's like speed bag. Yeah, he speed bags the guy's balls,
yeah,
which is hilarious. And then he goes off, and then like the chef comes out of the kitchen and starts doing karate. He starts doing this like monkey arm thing and like flapping his hands by his ears, and like does this little fight thing. He then, to top off the entire fight, he like throws people out windows, still one-on-one, no weapons, just his hands, so it meets your criteria.
It does.
The waiter comes out, the final fight, and the waiter comes out and he's really intense, and you're like, oh, is Harry gonna really get it this time? And he reaches into the waiter and like his chest and like rips out his heart, and then the guy like pulls out a doggy bag and like they put the heart in the doggy bag.
Classic.
And it's not actually happening. This is like a spoiler. He's daydreaming and he's playing this out, but epic fight scene from Harry in Dumb and Dumber.
All right.
It's good.
Yeah.
No?
It doesn't make my list, but it qualifies.
It has the benefit of being, you're thinking out of the box, and I like that.
I mean, I'm just trying to think the facts.
I get
that.
that.
Yeah, but not there for you guys. My next one might be. So what is your fourth?
So my fourth is, I'm sure, a scene that cropped up in comments. I have not actually read the comments to our post to see who went with what. But one of the like famous fight scenes in 80s films. This would be the fight scene in an alley from the very, very well-loved and deservedly so John Carpenter film They Live. It is between Roddy Piper and Keith David. Roddy Piper is an unnamed man who has discovered that aliens of some sort have taken over, or perhaps always had taken over, American pop culture, and that only those people wearing a certain special kind of sunglasses can see the truth. So his good friend that he's encountered at in their time at like various homeless shelters, he's trying to get this man to put on glasses, and this man does not want to put on glasses. And so they fight until oh my God, Roddy Piper can get Keith David to put on sunglasses. And
what's the name of this again?
They Live.
They Live. It's a comedy?
It's a satire.
Okay.
And they fight for like 6 minutes in an alley. And it's great for a couple of reasons. One is that it's ridiculous because it's so damn long. Two, it's so unpretty. It's just like these two big guys slugging out at each other for like 6 minutes in an alley. There's nothing artful about it. It's just like big mounds of beef punching, and it's kind of unusual for a movie fight scene to spend that much time on something that has that little like craft. I mean, there's craft to it. Like there's a lot of thought about how they're going to stage this fight scene, but it's so not kung fu. It's so not like choreographed. It's just like violent and thuggish and ugly in a way that grows increasingly funny because it just seems so like arbitrary and weird. And it's one of those scenes that everybody who's seen this movie talks about it and loves it. It's like probably the most loved thing about this movie after the very famous bubblegum line. And it deserves every inch of that. I think it has this wonderful level of rawness that feels real, but also feels very much like a movie because it turns into a gag.
Would you recommend, so is the scene really good, or is this a movie that you would also put on you recommend seeing list?
It's a good movie. The movie has some issues as it goes along. Its plot gets a little unwieldy, but certainly the first hour or so of the movie is great, and this fight scene happens within that first hour. The fight scene's the best thing in it, so I would definitely say it's worth seeing the movie for the fight, but it's a fun satire. It's a good sci-fi film. John Carpenter, at that point in his career, was still mostly in the business of making really good movies with really interesting characters. And that's the other thing. These are two really like likable, well-etched characters in a sort of very larger-than-life B-movie tradition. So not like, it's not a character drama, but it's two people that we are invested in fighting each other. And I think that's always more interesting than like one character versus anonymous henchmen. just
Yeah.
getting pounded.
I liked this movie
You've seen
growing
it?
up as a kid. Yeah, especially. I wanted to have a pair of sunglasses and
So you could see monsters or
I
see
wanna
aliens?
see them now too. Like I don't know really have a good feeling about who's across from me at the table right now.
I get that.
Yeah. No, yeah.
But you saw the movie, but did not make your list.
I honestly, without having to go back and look at the fight scene, I can't remember. I've only seen the movie a couple times. I cannot remember the fight scene.
That seems hard for me to believe.
I know. I'm sorry. What I can remember, because of recency, is watching Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton duel it out as brothers in Warrior, 2011's Warrior. Huh?
That's a weird segue for a fight scene that's clearly not good enough to be on your top five.
IMDb members seem to enjoy this movie. This is ranked number 153.
Did you say
Wait, this is
IMDb
on the
members?
IMDb top 250?
Top 250 list, ranked number 153.
Excessive.
It's all 27-year-old men that rank those things.
It gives it an 8.2 Rotten Tomatoes. Critics, 82%. Written and directed by Gavin O'Connor, who brought us Pride and Glory, Jane Got a Gun, The Accountant, and the upcoming Suicide Squad 2 whenever it makes its way. So I have a little bit of hope for Suicide Squad 2. I like this movie quite a bit. If you're not familiar with mixed martial arts, this is kind of like the movie for mixed martial artists.
What's the difference between martial arts and mixed martial arts?
So martial arts are a very disciplined, like well monitored and well regulated thing where like if this is your martial arts tradition, then that is your tradition.
Yeah.
And, like if you do a certain kind of kung fu or a certain kind of judo or whatever, mixed martial arts uses the methods of multiple different martial arts traditions all at once.
Okay, like
Pick and
jiu-jitsu?
choose. You can do whatever. Boxing. You're a boxer. You get in the ring. You can do some boxing.
You can do some Three Stooges style slap fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Poke them in the eyes.
That's what Rod
It's supposed to settle the debate as to which martial arts is best, but what people end up doing is a hybrid of multiple. So there's grappling, there's
So you can do whatever you want.
wrestling,
If I'm like
there's-
in mixed martial arts, I can just do whatever. There's no rules.
do whatever you want.
You can
Yeah.
punch people square in the nuts.
I can do that.
Over and over again.
Bag ball thing.
Just grab someone by the waist and just pound at their Johnson.
Okay.
But this
don't think
is
I'd be very good at
It starts
martial
off as a
arts.
moody movie. Tom Hardy plays the youngest son of an alcoholic former boxer, returns home where he's trained by his father for a competition in MMA, and there are two brothers who haven't seen each other in a while. One's a teacher, one's kind of an ex-marine or ex-military personnel, and they both end up finding their way into this tournament and ultimately kind of coming to a head where they end up fighting one another at the end. There's a lot of tension. Nick Nolte plays the kind of the I guess not kind of an abusive father, and tying the movie together. There are several great fight scenes in this, mostly on the Tom Hardy side. Joel Edgerton does a good job, but it culminates with the two brothers facing off, and I could not figure out who I was rooting for, really. The movie probably has you rooting more for Joel Edgerton, maybe slightly, but I think it puts you in a
I think that's
position
the
where
intent,
it's
for sure.
where there's still enough love for Tom Hardy, where you're kind of wanting to
conflicted.
see him. Yeah, you're conflicted. You want to see him succeed as well too. So yeah, just great use of camera movement as well too, and just the mixed martial arts. It kind of got me interested in it. I was excited when all the previews and things were kind of hitting screens in 2011, and I thought it was a very exciting movie. Listener Luna also had this as one
Back
of her.
yourself up there.
I gotta
Yeah, I
have
know you do.
the backup. 10-minute last fight scene. It's awesome. There are some other great fight scenes in this, but it's the brothers meeting in the final battle on the
Okay.
octagon.
Okay.
That's what set it up for me.
Put that on your list to rewatch, Tim.
Apparently.
I know.
I remember it being a very fine and very dull movie.
Right, yeah. It doesn't seem like one that I'd go for, but you know which one I would and which one I think is on both of your guys' lists. Or like it should be. It's on everybody else's list. I had a hard time breaking down which actual scene to choose, but I ended up choosing the plane scene. What if I just said the airplane scene? Would you know which movie I'm talking about?
North by Northwest.
Yes. No, come on. The plane scene.
fight scene that takes
What's the
place
fight
on
scene?
the-
The
in the air?
ultimate plane scene.
Is there a plane fight in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Oh,
No.
There's
There
a tank
is.
fight.
There's a tank fight. I almost thought about that one, but there is one in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Come on, guys.
even the
the
best
fight
Raiders
scene.
of the Ark.
No, but the
fight
best
scene.
fight scene. No, I think it is. So I was debating between the swordsman one where he pulls the gun, but that's not really a fight.
It's not really a fight, but I want it to be anyway because it's the best part.
So that's why I'm caveating, and I'm saying like I sort of want to choose that. But when you're actually thinking about ultimate fight scene, the plane scene where the mechanic comes out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
now
thinking.
I know what you're talking
I
about.
thought you meant like on an airplane. You're talking about where the airplane is
where the guy chops
spinning.
the guy.
Oh, I'm
the
with
chairs,
you. High five.
Thanks.
Now I'm with you. Sorry, I was confused.
Yeah. So the plane scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg. This is Indiana Jones, the first movie where he's going out to the governments after the Lost Ark, and he's trying to get it before the Nazis do. Typical situation. And so so Harrison Ford goes out and he's trying to escape, and they're trying to escape away on this plane. This brawny German man comes out and tries to stop him. And Harrison Ford does this epic ball kick, unaffected by the ball kick. And then he goes and tries to like kick him again. He ends up like biting him to try and knock the guy down. The guy just like continues to like punch him, but Indy continues to get back up like every punch, no matter how hard. Finally does this like sand to the face scene. And then ultimately Marianne comes to the rescue and she starts flying the plane, or like turns the plane on, which starts to like circle. And then the two of them go hand to hand fighting, taking punches until finally Indy gets him right where he wants him, and the plane chops him up from the propeller.
I am not certain that Indy is trying to get him chopped up by the propeller, or if that's just like
oh no, he knew.
Good luck.
No, Indy knew what he was doing.
Because a lot of the movie is Indy having profoundly good luck.
But it's like one of those things, like he has just an instinct that he knows that, like, you know, what if I just get him with this quick sand to the face and like a quick angle to the left, that this propeller is going to just chop him up to pieces.
No,
so
I'm on board.
Yeah. So I can't believe you guys don't have this one.
It's a good pick. It meets my criteria.
But not there. But not there.
It's not there.
All
I
right.
haven't seen Raiders of the Lost Ark enough times. I
Just
feel like
watch it again.
It's a great
None
scene.
of us have.
It's
You can't.
It's
see
a
it,
perfect
no.
movie, so you cannot, by definition, have seen it enough times.
So not on your list. I don't feel good about any of my other ones then. So what is your number 3 then?
So my number 3 is going, I'd say pretty far off book. I mean, I think this is one that not anyone would have come up with necessarily, because maybe it's not a great fight scene. It's a great scene. It is a great scene about a fight. And this is the extraordinarily long climax to the 1952 John Ford film The Quiet Man, which is...
Did I see this with you? Do we do
That's
this?
a possibility.
Oh, we saw The Third Man.
Ireland film?
The Third Man.
Okay. So The Quiet Man...
There was a man in there.
There is a man.
Yeah.
There's a man in most movies.
Most movies,
This is often considered an issue by feminist film scholars. The Quiet Man, which is also a film considered an issue by most feminist film scholars, is about an American who was born in Ireland. He's technically Irish, but he was born in Ireland, but immediately moved to America as a very small child, grew up, had a life that he refuses to talk about, but he comes back to his home in Ireland. He's a stranger. No one really remembers him. It's kind of implied that his family was a little bit odd and on the outside of society. Played by John Wayne. But he buys his family home, sets up a house, falls in love with the sister of the local landowning bully. The bully is played by Victor McLaglen, a John Ford regular. These are all John Ford regulars. The sister is played by Maureen O'Hara. So John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara fall in love, get married, but the weird codes of Irish masculinity demand that John Wayne act in a certain way, and he won't do so. And this causes the town to lose respect for him. It causes his wife to lose respect for him. It causes his asshole bully brother-in-law to lose respect for him. So finally, and this is kind of spoiling a movie. It is a 65-year-old movie, so I can't really feel that bad about spoiling it. We discover that he was a professional boxer. And the reason that he refuses to engage in any of these like manly Irish fisticuffs is because he killed a guy. And that's why he left America to come back to Ireland. So he finally confronts that that's what's going on in his life, finally agrees that he will just fight Victor McLaglen to be done with it. And what happens after that is like a literal 10-minute fist fight scene across this entire town, across the fields, over and through the river outside of town, played very much for comedy. I mean, this is a romantic comedy through and through. This is not a serious movie.
I don't think of John Wayne as a romantic comedy kind of guy.
And it's kind of a violent romantic comedy that gets maybe more jokes than are comfortable out of, you know, what's funny is John Wayne dragging Maureen O'Hara bodily across a field. but it's like this pleasant, crazily cartoon movie. Like it presents the most ridiculous version of Ireland you could imagine, but it's beautiful. It's gorgeous shot movie, ludicrous movie, silly movie, fun movie. And it ends with this just fight scene where they're like fighting across town. Everyone comes out, like dozens of people are watching them fight, goading them on. There's a lot of fun little character bits. There's a scene where they stop the fight because they're both winded and someone buys them whiskey, so they both get a little drunk, and then they resume the fight. Again, these are not great fighters. There's not really a good stunt team, so it's basically just John Wayne and Victor McLaglen pretending to fight each other, and they're not doing terribly good at it.
Yeah.
But it's so well integrated into the plot. It feels like such a huge release when it happens in the narrative, and then it just brings together all these themes of the movie, which is very much about this little weird town in Ireland and the colorful, wonderful people there, all of whom get involved with this fight. There's a scene, it was my grandpa's favorite scene in movies, where an old man played by John Ford's brother Francis Ford is on his deathbed, and he hears commotion outside his window, and when he realizes that the fight has finally happened and everybody's waiting for it, he hops off his deathbed and runs after them to go watch the fight. And it's just like that kind of
humor.
Goofy, little, silly, pleasant stuff. Again, is it a great fight scene? It really isn't, but it's such a great piece of using the fight scene as a storytelling element that I just feel so good about it.
I think we had a few people on the site that commented with that.
Yeah, that was a popular one. Also popular, not as popular, maybe. Evenly matched individuals.
Yep, it's mine.
You're so sure.
It's not mine. Both of mine are just one weekling getting pulverized by
This is a Richard Donner film from 1987, Lethal Weapon.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, two former military folks. I'm talking about Mel Gibson and Gary Busey. What I love about this particular fight scene is, again, they're trained in similar manner. They're both martial arts kind of equipped, and Gary Busey's done for. Like the movie's almost wrapping up. Gary Busey's in handcuffs, and Danny Glover uncuffs him and says, "Hey, you two, go ahead, settle it." And
yeah.
It's pouring down rain. It's nighttime. It's in the front yard of, I think, Danny Glover's house or something like that.
I picture Danny Glover fighting.
No, he's not fighting.
Oh,
he's like letting Mel Gibson and Gary Busey kind of go at it, because it's like,
if you'd given me 100 guesses, I don't think I'd remembered that was Gary Busey.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen this movie.
So
I love this movie.
they've everything's wrapped up. The movie's pretty much ended, and they've got Gary Busey in handcuff, who was kind of the main henchman of this mastermind who was trying to run drugs and whatever. I forget even the plot of like what ultimately the bad guy was trying to do, but Gary Busey was his main henchman. And Gary and Mel haven't had a chance to settle things, and Gary's kind of saying, as he's handcuffed, "Hey, if I wasn't in these handcuffs, like
I'd be able
to take you out." So Danny's like, "All right, let's." Danny, his partner, Mel Gibson's partner, Riggs's partner, handcuffs him and says, "All right, you two go ahead, and we'll keep things on the up and up. You guys just settle things one-on-one." And what ensues is a nice exchange of martial arts and fists and kicks and whatnot. In
no
the
weapons.
Rain. No weapons. Well, maybe
just their guns.
Maybe at the end there's a little weapon play when all things are said and done. But yeah, I love this exchange. I still think about it from time to time. It's one that jumped to the top of mind for me when I was thinking about top 5 fight scenes. Just, again, evenly matched individuals. You're waiting for this kind of final scene to happen where you're hoping, you almost feel like it's not going to happen when he gets in handcuffs, and then you're rewarded when the handcuffs come off.
Okay.
Also,
you should see that movie.
Cannon Kruk, also audience member who had this. The fight scene gets in around 4 minutes in timing. So
I will say, I don't tend to think of Lethal Weapon as being an action movie, which is weird because it totally is an action movie. This is a really just great piece of screenwriting. Like, it set the template for so many movies that followed it. It is the version of the mismatched cops who kind of hate each other and one of whom is too old for this shit. A line of dialogue originated by this movie. Just a really great, like, character action comedy-esque, not really a comedy, but it's got a lot of comedy in it. Really a remarkably well-made film and a remarkably well-written film, so totally worth seeing.
Yeah, Shane Black written, like, he had to be like in his 20s, right?
He was very young. It was his first screenplay. Yeah. It was a spec script, and it includes my single favorite stage direction in any published screenplay. he describes the villain's house, which is, one of those 80s drug villain, like giant mansions in LA, as exterior whoever's house, huge LA mansion. If this movie sells well, if this movie does really well, it's the kind of house I want to buy someday. And like, that's great. Like, that's why Shane Black is a better writer than any one of us. That's like it's perfect. You can see
I bet you could do just the same.
But I wouldn't have the balls to do that in a spec script, and he did.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to see that one. You've sold me on it.
Still, you haven't seen Lethal Weapon?
No.
Oh, you got
Lethal Weapon's really damn good. Lethal Weapon 2 is still okay, but the third and fourth are not very good.
The only thing that I can think of that's slightly better than that is the 1991's Terminator 2.
Is this the Russian version of Terminator 2?
Yeah. and now the Swedish
I love what just
one.
happened. I don't even know what's going on
I don't know
anymore.
what's happening right now. The fight between T-800 and T-1000.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was
How could you forget about this? Is like the ultimate, like, you have two things that are set up against each other, relatively evenly matched, one slightly more probably than the other. And
No, I like the underdog. I like
what
the
I'm saying.
underdogs. Yeah,
You
no,
want
that's
the
what's good.
T-800.
Yeah, this is a good pick.
And so, yeah, I liked Terminator. I picked this one for sequel better than the original because I like this better than the first one because you gotta like
That's
Arnold.
wrong, but okay.
No,
A lot of people like this one better.
for
I am not one
sure.
of them.
But yeah, you gotta want Arnold on the side of them. You don't want mean Arnold. Arnold, you want to come out and just be like,
Arnold's very good.
I'll be back.
But good Arnold is also very
also is a little better. And so there were two scenes in this, and I chose the ending scene, which is the fight at the end where he like comes up over. He's like, his arm is like in the crank thing or in the lug nut or whatever you call it, and he's like coming up and he's gonna take down the T-1000, and he like comes over. All this is transpired. Where are they? They're in like a really hot place.
Yeah, they're in one of those like movie foundries that I don't think exist in the real world. But
No,
they look, damn good
they
on
look
film.
really good on film. And so this fight scene's gone on for like 10 minutes, and they're trying to take down this T-1000. But this last scene where he like comes up and over this little grinding gear thing, he's still trapped in it, but he like whips out his gigantic bazooka gun and then like takes him down. The other scene in this movie, which is another fight scene that I love, is the bar scene where he comes in and he's completely nude and
whips out his giant bazooka thing.
Well played.
That was good. You never see it, but so it's unknown. I would
Apparently Schwarzenegger's actually a bit disappointing in the package
I
department.
would
I've heard
completely
this.
assume.
Possibly because of steroid use.
Well,
which I hate to say,
obviously, yeah. Or it could just be a scale thing at that point, you know?
That's also a possibility.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
When you've got muscles the size of Volkswagen Beetles,
Yeah.
like a 4-inch cock would
Everything's-
look like a micro penis.
I love the word micro penis too.
It's a good word.
I don't know why. I know
Let's
it's
do a top
weird.
5 micro penis.
Okay, that's the next episode. So he comes in and he's like, I need your clothes, your boots, your motorcycle. And then he's like, he does the scene where he's like,
Oh, you were doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger accent before when you sounded like a Russian spy.
yeah.
Oh.
See, now as I thought I thought it was clear.
No,
Rob
not
knew.
even a little. Okay,
No, okay,
great.
yeah, that's what I was doing. And then he's like, you forgot to say please. Oh, it was just like the best scene.
It's a good scene.
So that's it. I'm
It's a really
choosing the fight scene between the T-800 and T-1000 in the end, where then they burn up in the lava.
Spoiler alert! For a movie everybody in the world has seen.
It's
There's
okay,
only
good.
one microchip left.
Only one, yeah.
Yep.
It's in his head.
It's in his head.
Oh,
and
it's
he
so
taps his
sad.
head, and
It's
it's
sad.
like
I
it's
cried.
possibly the saddest moment in Schwarzenegger's not terribly emotionally compelling career.
Yeah. Well,
There were some moments
I
in
teared
junior
up.
where I teared up.
You are.
I did in
not
Kindergarten
talented.
Cop for sure, but so that made my number 2 because it was epic and awesome.
It is very epic. It is very awesome. It's a great movie.
Okay.
So I am finally getting to the point that I had to resist getting to with number 5 and just staying there. This would have been such a fucking easy list to just make my top 5 Hong Kong action movie scenes.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like so many great fight scenes in Asian cinema from the 70s. I mean, maybe even from earlier in the 70s. My knowledge starts with about 1969. I decided to limit myself. I decided to pace myself out a little bit. But we now get to my first Asian fight scene, which is from one of the most beloved of all action movies, 1973's Enter the Dragon, the first posthumous film starring Bruce Lee, who, of course, one of the absolute great movie martial artists. I don't know enough about martial arts from a technical standpoint to say if he was genuinely the greatest. I mean, I don't know if that's true.
Do you know Rob? Rob was into the martial arts.
No, I don't
What
know.
Bruce Lee has is the ability to be a movie star while he's conducting fight scenes, and I don't even know how the hell that works. But like he's doing these ludicrous, impossible, inhuman contortions with his body, and at the same time, he just has charisma and screen presence. Like he's Cary Grant drinking a fucking martini, and it's such an amazing thing. So the fight scene that I've picked as my favorite Bruce Lee scene, although good Lord, let's not say it's the only good one or even the only one that deserves to be in a top 5 of all time, is the climactic scene from Enter the Dragon, the scene where he fights the movie's big bad guy, Han, played by Shikien, in a room full of mirrors. And first off, rooms full of mirrors are just great places to see
So
movies.
much, yeah.
And what's amazing about this one is that the narrative of the fight is, so Bruce Lee is surrounded by mirrors. He can't tell which is the real Han, which is the real bad guy. So the narrative of the fight is that he has to destroy the mirrors one at a time, trying to like clear out the room. And it's done, it's such an elegant, clean way to stage a fight scene. But two, I mean, Bruce Lee moving in mirrors, so you see like lots of Bruce Lees, and it's, oh my God, so good.
So how's he taking out the mirrors? Like a kung fu chop to
just
the mirror?
with kung fu, kicking, punching. I think he throws
breaking each mirror.
chairs,
Okay.
stuff like that. I mean, I don't remember the details. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, but like the scene just struck me as being so beautiful, just like so beautifully shot. Because I mean, again, mirrors, like hell yeah, mirrors. But also in a film just filled to the brim with scenes of Bruce Lee showing off what his body can do. And I've never seen another human body that can do what his can do. It's just like he's made of nothing but sinews and tendons, and he can like turn his body inside out
I
practically.
love watching martial arts.
So good. And this is the scene in the movie that's the best at showing off what his body can do. It's the scene that does that the best. So it's just like amazing movements, fluid, poetic, violent, muscular, and done in a very visually compelling setting. Just love this scene.
I love Bruce Lee. He had good comedy chops. I felt like
really
his
does.
timing was
I'm
really
surprised
good,
you don't
too.
have more Bruce Lee. If you feel like a Bruce Lee man.
I'm surprised I don't have more martial arts.
You love
Asian
martial arts.
movies. Yeah, I felt like that was its own category. I
Rob
kinda
has like a
limited
lot of home
myself to-
videos at home. Like when he was like 10, he and his friends used to do like kung fu videos with
Yeah, we
yoga
did.
balls,
I
and
can
they
see
would.
that.
Yeah, can you picture
It's a
it?
list for another time for me. Like the
The
Asian.
Rob's top 5 videos of himself
Home video.
doing fake kung fu as a 10-year-old.
It'd be really hard to narrow it down, though.
I can imagine there's probably dozens at least.
Totally.
And I thought about even just catching up on YouTube and just watching some, like, just the fight scenes of the Raid or Raid 2, which I haven't seen, or Ip Man.
You haven't seen the
I
Raid
know.
or the Raid 2?
That's what I'm talking about.
What
It's
is your
like
fucking
I know.
problem?
So I feel disingenuous doing that. So I stuck with movies that I know really well. And this is
right.
IMDb's number 213. If I said, my name is Inigo Montoya.
and I am here to kill your wife. Right?
Yes. What in the crap?
I've heard this movie.
Very different
My name is
movie.
Diego
Not
Montoya.
recently, apparently.
No? I thought I was close. Oh, I close though?
No.
Killed is a word that
Something
happened.
about a wife, right?
No.
I'm here for your wife. I'm here to take your wife.
No.
No?
Be a very different.
Watch that version of The Princess Bride, though.
Oh, is that? Oh,
My
that's
name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Oh, prepare to die. That's
This is,
what I
to me, as I'm watching this, by the way, I had no idea that the Man in Black was Christopher Guest.
The Man in Black is
Is it Christopher
No,
Guest?
it's not.
No?
It's Carrie Elwes.
Yeah.
Oh, the Man in-
sorry,
the-
not the Man in Black. I'm so sorry.
Whatever. Lord Stabbies.
crap.
What's his name?
Yeah, I should.
Yeah, no,
have
that
this.
is Christopher
I should-
Guest. The
that's
Man in
Christopher
Black
Guest,
is
not the Man in Black.
Is
Although he
also
wears
the Dark
black, I
Pirate.
think
He
as
does.
well too. But that is my favorite scene. Just you're building up to have Manny Patinkin, who plays
Greatest
Inigo-
Spanish actor.
Yes,
I might add.
Who plays Inigo Montoya? You're waiting for this
He's in New York,
opportunity to take revenge for
Yeah.
the whole movie. You're waiting for this opportunity, and then you almost don't get it because he's running down the stairs, and damn, that Christopher Guest stabs him, and then
Stabs him.
you think it's over, and it's not over. He summons his inner self to be able to rise up, and for 3 minutes you get a really solid. It's a sword fighting scene, so
it's
apologies.
so
Tim.
great. No, I mean that's cool. What's great about it is that we've already established early in the film that he can fight one-handed, and then the whole thing about this scene is that he's got to clutch his chest because he's bleeding out, so he has to fight one-handed.
Yeah.
And he just keeps repeating that line, and it becomes so intense, and the music is playing it up. It's a great scene, no question about it.
Is it
a great fight sword.
Is it your favorite fight scene? Because some folks did have some of the initial kind of the scene between Inigo and the Man in Black, the Dread Pirate Robertson.
I mean, first off, neither one of these are great fight scenes because, frankly, neither one of them are trained as sword fighters. Always might be. But I like them both a lot for story reasons. I think the fight scene at the end with Chris Guest is the more satisfying emotionally. And again, if I want to see people using a sword and have it be lovely, this is not the first film I look to.
Sure.
It's so good from a story perspective.
No, apparently one of our listeners wrote that Eloise was trained for quite some time trying to learn proper sword play.
It's pretty clear from the movie that Elvis is the one most comfortable holding a sword.
Zev Burrows, Catherine Clark, and Not Fenimore also had The Princess Bride on their list as well, too.
Man.
So, no, I promise no overlap, and we're delivering so far.
Yeah, I really thought there would be. I think
I'll bet we all have the same number one.
Do you think? I will think of something to do if we match up on our number one, because this one's so good, and I really think you guys are going. When I say it, you're going to be like, "Oh, why did I forget that?" Because it should have been on my list. Yep. Just so you know,
the scene where Indiana Jones throws a guy out of a Zeppelin in Last Crusade.
No, that was my number 6. That was my number 6. This is. So it's not going to be on your list because it's in this decade.
I'm willing to guarantee you haven't seen the film that's on. My film is from this decade. Maybe it is the same film.
Too? Maybe it is.
I don't think you've seen this film, though.
So this one is the 2017. It's a new one.
Oh, wow.
Logan. The scene with Laura versus Reavers, where the little mini Wolverine goes out and just takes down everybody with her toes, with her fingers, with her knuckle blades, her toe blades, and she just takes
got blades
out
all over, just coming
everywhere. This movie still sits with me. When we first saw it, I loved it, and I remember being like, I gotta let it breathe, Carrie, let it breathe. You don't like it that much. And then I still realize that I still do. So this one was written and directed by James Mangold. It's Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart's in this, and Daphne Keane plays the little girl named Laura. She was just phenomenal in this, and this fight scene in particular was so shocking to me because you don't know who this little girl is, and she comes out and she is just intense, and there's no words. It's just a series of like grunts and like the stab, like that whoosh, like thing noise as she just stabs everybody.
What you all missed was Carrie just like moving her hand towards me.
Visually, yeah, she
very like
you.
weirdly violent way, and now I feel like I need to.
Was it intrusive of your space? So this was just an epic thing. She comes out. It's set in the near future. A weary Logan, who's apparently aged as a part of the movie, but does not look that old. He is trying to take care of Professor X, and they're trying to get he's trying to save this little girl, and there's this new era of child mutants that they're trying to protect from these bad people. And this little Laura girl, intense, man.
Yep.
Great scene. Made me want to be a Wolverine.
I mean, I feel like the life of a Wolverine is filled with trauma and sadness. This is the message of Logan.
This is the message of Logan.
Still one of
Why do you want to
be like a nice Wolverine, you know, like just
still one of my favorite movies of the year,
but not on your list.
Well, it's because it's not mano a mano.
What do you mean mano a mano?
Multiple monos.
She just kills many monos.
Mono
That's
on
right.
many.
Mono on many. Yep.
Didn't work
Okay.
for me.
I mean, to me, it's still the best superhero movie of the year and a strong contender for best superhero movie of the decade. So I'm right with you. I can't say that I love that particular fight scene the most. I think that the action is very excellent in that movie, but none of it stands out to me specifically. But
when she grabs the ground with her toe and scrapes it, I'm like, oh, so good. So anyway, that's my number one.
All right.
What is it? So what do you have?
As I kind of implied, I'm staying in East Asia, or technically now we're in Southeast Asia. We're in Indonesia with a film that Rob needs to fucking see.
Oh, man.
This is The Raid to Barandal 2014, directed by Gareth Evans. As will come to no surprise to anybody who's seen the film, I am talking about the kitchen scene, the climax of the film, in which our dauntless super cop Rama faces off against a character who has no name. He's just called the Assassin, played by, I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize, Sesep Arif Rahman. And it is after a series of fight scenes that Rama has basically had to like get through all of the moderately difficult henchmen to get to the level boss, if you will. And that's very much what it feels like. It feels like, you get to the big bad guy at the end of a video game, and the character's tired. Rama is like beat. He's been fighting people with colorful fighting styles and nicknames and such. He shows up in the kitchen of the main villain's restaurant, and he has this one last bad guy that he has to deal with. And what follows is just beyond. I mean, the Raid movies are brilliant fight choreography. The Raid has so many good fight scenes. It has a climactic fight scene that very, very nearly was on my list, but I decided I could only have one Raid film in a list of the 5 best fight scenes. But this is just beyond anything that I was prepared for, even when I'd sat through 2.5 hours of the Raid getting to this moment. What happens in this fight scene is just like such unbelievably perfect human movement married to unbelievably adventurous camera movement and editing. The characters start out fighting barehanded. They are in a kitchen, so they start grabbing kitchen shit. This is why I said that they can get weapons in the middle of the fight scene. Because I couldn't disqualify this. I needed to stick with this. So they start fighting with knives in the kitchen.
Like a spoon. I'm going to get you.
They fight with spoons. It becomes a Looney Tune short. And Rama hits the assassin on the head with a pan, and the pan takes the shape of the assassin's face.
Yeah, and an anvil drops out.
An anvil drops out.
Yeah.
So no, it's just this incredibly complicated 2 human beings at the height of their physical capacity moving around a kitchen. It's half ballet, half just like pure violence pornography. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's exciting. It's very, very tiring just to watch it and think of what those 2 human beings had to do on that set in order to make that happen. And it is very violent, and there's something that is legitimately exciting about watching violence in a movie, and this is like a great version of that. So it is maybe not possible for me to defend it as the single best fight scene. It is the fight scene that got me the most exhilarated and the most like aware of the craftsmanship of the people who put it together and the incredible skill of the actors involved, and how much training and control over your body it must take to do that. And I'm just in awe of everything about this fight scene.
Have you ever been in a fight?
No.
You've never been in a fist fight?
Not really, no.
Really?
Not a fist fight.
What about like a smacking scenario?
No, I have been in situations where the volume of voices was raised significantly.
You say that it's such a cocky... Have you been in a fight?
I mean, there's been
your face tells me that you have torn someone's extensions out.
I've pinched a few times.
Tweaked some nips?
Tweaked a nip.
Oh, no?
I don't even know.
I feel like that's how people fight these days.
No
That's
one
not the new fighting
tweaks.
style?
Maybe that's how you fight, Rob.
The nip twister. Rob's been in a fight, haven't you? How many fights have you been in?
Just the one.
Oh, just that one time. Yeah, Rob got
on
really...
top.
Did you beat him? You beat him.
I mean...
I'm sure it wasn't
Look
even
at these
close.
arms. These are fighting arms here.
Can we rent the Raid and Raid 2 back to back there and we watch this?
I will lend you the Raid.
Let's
I
do
own them
it.
both
Okay.
on Blu-ray.
Let's do this because I need...
and I mean, like...
When you said there was spoon fighting, I'm in, so...
Not actually spoon fighting.
I know.
But so many of the fight scenes are so good. Like, the entirety of the Raid could have been on this list because it's basically a film-long fight scene. But I decided to go with the kitchen fight, which is bloodletting in this really desperate, aggressive way, just as pure visual poetry.
Okay.
I went with the martial arts movie. Not really, but there's the martial artists, I'm sure, helped choreograph this particular movie. This is IMDb's number 64 movie on their top 250 list, 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. So I have 2 Tom Hardy movies.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Absolutely. Bane versus Batman.
Christopher Nolan is well regarded for the quality of his action scenes in Bizarro World.
Mm-hmm. So that's a
Bane.
no. Bane 2 times. You get Bane and Batman 2 times.
To be fair, if you were hellbent on including a Batman fight scene, that would be the only one that you can defend.
Which one are you? Which one did you like the best?
The first one.
The first one? Yeah, that's the one I prefer as well too. Clocking in at about 4 minutes. It really sets the tone. Where again, they're not so much equals. I had kind of said that equals was a thing. Bane clearly is.
It is in fact clearly the point there.
Yeah,
which I think still makes it okay.
Yeah, it makes it okay, and helps establish the movie from a plot point perspective, because this is where Batman finds himself kind of overmatched for really the first time from a fighting perspective, and having to work his way back up from that. So quality movie, quality fight scene. I think I like the exchange on the rafters. I guess is where they're doing most of their fighting there too, and then everybody kind of watching. Typically, the more far superior Batman finally having met his match.
And I think the rhythm of this fight scene is really good, especially because it does end with Batman losing in a scene that's taken from an extremely famous comic book called Nightfall. And I do think the pacing of the fight scene is perfectly timed to bring us to that moment, which is shocking, unless you've read Nightfall, in which case you were expecting it from the minute they cast somebody as Bane. But other than that, like, it's such a surprising moment because of the way it's paced out and timed out, and I think it's really good.
You don't remember it?
No.
He gives Batman a wedgie.
See? I think I would remember that.
And then twists his nipples.
Does he? He does a nip twist?
Sadly do a nipple twist.
I would have remembered had he done the nip twist.
I think we all would have. He could have in Batman and Robin.
Yes, because it was actually on the suit, so it was physically possible. Billy the Kid also had that on their list as well. Every week we ask you to share your picks and thoughts for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental. Based on the results, here are your top 5 picks. Tied for 5th, we have I was going to say two of Tim's, but just one of Tim's. John Wayne versus Victor McLaughlin in The Quiet Man, as tied with Donnie Yen versus Sammo Hung in Ip Man Part 2.
Oh, yeah. The Ip Man series have some great fights to the degree that I don't think I could pick one.
For number 4, we have, and this is one I thought about, but it wasn't the fight scene that I liked about this one. It was more of the setting, and that's Spider-Man versus Doc Ock. Spider-Man 2.
That was good. That was good.
Great scene. Is it a fight scene?
Yeah, it's part
they're
of
fighting.
Dynamite.
It is objectively a fight scene.
Yeah.
That's not what I like about it.
It falls afoul of my no weapons rule, I think.
Okay.
It's part of his body, so he came in with
it's
it.
Not. It's an attachment to his body.
Also tied for number 4 was one of Carrie's, Indiana Jones versus the Swordsman and Raiders of the Lost.
The Swordsman. That was like my
quasi related.
That was like what I said. That's what I said.
And then tied for 3rd, we have a lot of people enjoying Atomic Blonde. Lorraine Broughton versus all of the Expendables in the stairwell.
I will say, if my rule set allowed stairwell fights versus many people, it would have easily been The Protector. But it's also a very good fight in Atomic Blonde.
Also included as tied for 3rd was Uma Thurman versus Daryl Hannah in Kill Bill Volume 2. So people prefer that.
I didn't see 2.
About
one was too much for me.
I
was stressed from 1.
I don't recall that. I mean, it's a good scene. I don't recall it even being the best fight scene in solo fight scene in the Kill Bills. Maybe I'm wrong.
Standing alone at number 2 was Neo versus Agent Smith, which I'm a big Matrix fan, but again,
in which?
That's they weren't very specific.
Because I think the Neo versus Smith surrounded by Smiths in 2, I could maybe see my way clear.
This is the Matrix. It's the original Matrix, so
the subway fight, probably.
Yeah, subway fight.
It's okay. I like the 1 and 2 better.
And then tied for first, we have Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. Excuse me, Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader. The Empire Strikes Back. And then, which none of us had. I know you had a sword disqualification.
I had a sword disqualification. Also,
it's not a sword. It's a lightsaber.
It is a weapon.
Yeah, it's a weapon.
I also
it's just light.
Well, what's it tied with?
Inigo Montoya versus the Count.
I find it interesting, and not even like upsetting interesting. If you had asked me what is the best sword fight scene in the first Star Wars trilogy, I would have not, for a moment's hesitation, I would have come up with the one at the end of Return of the Jedi. So I'm curious what people liked better about the one in Empire.
Interesting. Well, Carrie, you will be able to chime in on that when we finally get to our Star Wars series coming up soon. In the meantime, our lucky winner this episode was Cannon Kruk. Cannon had Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. Also, Dutch Schaefer versus the Predator and the Predator, which I really love.
I like that. That's good.
That's a good choice.
That's a good one.
And then here's a 2-on-1 matchup here: Qui-Gon versus Obi-Wan versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul and the Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon. Thank you.
That's all right.
I'll also learn from the Star Wars series.
Oh, that's right, because you haven't seen.
I haven't seen the Phantom Menace.
That's a good scene.
Also had Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark here, and then he had Riggs versus Mr. Joshua in Lethal Weapon. Nice. So thank you, Cannon. Cannon, shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Cannon, be on the lookout for our spoiler alert or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, thanks for listening. Check us out on social media. We're out on Facebook. Go out to our Facebook page and like it. Twitter, we're posting regularly up there for all of our updates. Go to our website, alternatending.com, where you'll find our movie reviews, podcasts, and more. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and Google, and be sure to go out and leave a movie review. Kara, did we have, or not a movie review, but a review of our show?
We have a review.
We do? All right.
So you know how I was saying this whole time, I was like, guys, go out and like ask your moms to leave a review. I think Tim's mom left a review this time. So
I'm sure she didn't, but
I think she did. It sounds like your mom. I think it is. I'll read it to you and then you can tell me. It's a little bit long, but I don't even care because it's really nice and it sounds like your mom. Your mom's profile name, I think, is Raleigh E. And I'll tell you why. So here's what they said. I can't say enough good things about the podcast. Carrie, Rob, and Tim have an excellent chemistry and comfortable fun banter with each other. They're wonderful to listen to and hang out with. Awesome rapport, and they have different movie tastes and criteria, so you really get a full spectrum of movies that they discuss and recommend. Here's where it turns into your mom. Tim, as a film critic, adds a lot of historical context and interesting trivia about films.
I do.
And often has more obscure, but excellent. Excellent films that he talks about. He's hilarious.
I appreciate that.
I can hear your mom say that.
Agree.
And extremely intelligent. This is for sure your mom.
Here's the thing. If I were to tell my mom, leave us a review of our podcast, here is this like step-by-step instruction for how to do it, I don't think she would know how. She's just very bad with computers.
Really? I don't
Very
know who
bad.
else would say these things, though.
Many people.
Many people. So the person also said, I was happily introduced to this podcast as a longtime fan of Tim's previous website, Antagony and Ecstasy. I know she read that too. Here's where I really, like, if I was thinking it wasn't your mom now, here's where I think it is. Carrie is absolutely adorable. Only your mom would say that.
I mean, that sounds like she's someone's mom who wrote this.
Maybe it's my mom. Maybe it's your mom, Rob. And charming. It has a casual moviegoer. She offers perspective I don't think is well represented in a lot of podcasts and film websites, which tend to cater more towards film buffs. I love her honesty. It is true. I don't lie. And unabashed sincerity about her movie choices and tastes, which more often than not do not align with Tim or Rob's. Sometimes. That one time we did.
I think that you and I come closer to agreeing more often than either one of us.
And it's not in either way. It's not a criteria of success because that's the whole point, right? Is
if we all three always agreed, there'd be no reason
That's
to have all
true.
three of us.
She's simply a delightful human being. I can't argue with that, and a joy to listen to. What a nice thing to say.
That's very nice.
Rob is not often correct, but he's tolerable.
What a very smart, insightful user this is.
I know. No, I'm just kidding. Rob, as the movie hobbyist, has taste leaning more towards mainstream, not meant to be derogatory in any means.
That's true.
But he also has a lot of surprising recommendations and tons of movie knowledge. Just like Carrie and Tim, Rob has an awesome sense of humor. Sometimes. It says sometimes. And his perspective and opinions, it doesn't really say sometimes. I can tell you were hurt by that. And really great to listen to. This is what another thing.
You did drop the ball in an absolute layup of a pun today. So
I know. This is the thing, and this is a really nice thing too. As for content, they mainly do top fives, which is really fun and culturally relevant categories, spoiler-heavy episodes for recent popular releases, and they encourage a lot of participation from social media to give out prizes. So I really appreciate the review because it's helpful.
That was tremendously kind.
It's really nice. There's even a little more there, and I'll stop reading it because I'm getting uncomfortable, but it's really, really nice, and we really, really appreciate the review.
Thank you so much.
Well, if they do like your movie selections, Kara, one of your top 5 anticipated movies is coming out with Murder on the Orient Express. So we'll be looking at our other movie enigmas with our top 5 murder mystery episode coming out. So you guys excited about that?
I'm very excited.
All right.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Have to find out.
I guess. We'll catch you then.